Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of the Triple Option Podcast. I'm your co-host Tarun Doglu, along with Abhi Dingari and Nate Autry. Today, we'll be recapping Week 12 of the college football season, as well as Week 11 of the NFL season. Uh, and let's get started.
So right off the bat, I want to say that Ohio State and C.J. Stroud have just been killing it. Like he dominated that game. It wasn't even worth watching after the first half. Michigan State's defense just did not know what they were doing. If you look at like even some of his most basic throws, they completely botched the coverage. It's not even like he's delivering into super tight windows. He's like it's like a wide open man essentially. Like they're playing like press
Yeah,
and then he just gets burnt.
I would say also give credit
yeah,
to Ohio State's defense. I mean, you're looking at Kenneth Walker, one of the Heisman candidates coming into this game. He absolutely destroyed Michigan. Had one of his Heisman moments. He comes in this game, he has under 100 yards. He gets absolutely shut down by Ohio State. I think that was a big factor to why
That
this
was
game got out of hand so quickly.
yeah. And I think
yeah.
that's the reason Ohio State's the only team that has a chance against Georgia. Because if you evaluate Georgia's defense, the primary force behind the defense is the front seven, right? The quarterback has no time. They offense can't develop. If Ohio's O line, State's O line can get even a fraction of time, I'm not really sure Georgia's corners can handle all of Ohio State's receivers in Olave and Jigba and Garrett Wilson. So
I think
Just
we're
for
getting a little bit ahead
comparison,
of ourselves. We should probably go
yeah,
over the games for week 12.
yeah. Just for comparison, though, like Kenneth Walker against Maryland, 30 attempts, 143 yards, and two touchdowns. Against Ohio State, 6 attempts for 25 yards.
Yeah.
He got completely shut down.
hmm
His longest run was 15 yards. Meaning, taking away that, he went 5 for 10 the entire game.
Wow. That's crazy.
yeah,
He actually got destroyed. But with this dominant win, we can all agree it's a very dominant win. Where do y'all see Ohio State reaching in the rankings?
I think they're number two.
I
Like if
agree.
you're the committee, like you have no excuse to put them lower than that.
And again, we're recording this on Tuesday afternoon before the college football playoff rankings have been released.
Yeah,
But I agree with you, Tarun. I think Ohio State, this game really shows that they're a complete team. And I think they have a good shot to make the playoffs. Obviously, this all comes down to how they play Michigan going forwards and how they perform in that Big Ten championship. But this was a very impressive win for them.
yeah.
How do you think this affects Michigan State's chances of like reaching a major bowl game? Because right now they're probably going to fall.
Um, I think this will test whether Mel Tuck was worth the big contract, which we'll go into later. But I think that's still a mentally sound team. I think they'll be able to, if not in the year six, a fairly decent bowl game.
I would say they're,
So,
unless they sneak into the Peach Bowl, I think they're out of big near six just because you have two really solid teams this year in the Big Ten with Michigan and Ohio State. So one of those teams is going to make the playoffs, and the other is likely going to make a New Year's Six. And so I don't see
well,
a
yeah,
third
but
Big Ten team getting into a New Year's Six bowl.
in that case, Michigan State would be the team over Michigan because Michigan State has the head-to-head.
Mhm.
Oh, I guess
Because
I can
they're
see
both
that.
two-loss teams.
We'll see. That's more of a Week 13 scenario, which will
Yeah,
it'll be more clear after Michigan versus Ohio State is over.
Yeah, the
yeah.
race outside of number one is kind of tight because Ohio State has dominated Michigan State. Meanwhile, Alabama, a team that I think we can say historically is one of the greatest college football teams ever, especially programs, did not
Well,
look
programs,
super
not
programs, not teams. Programs
yeah,
didn't look so hot against Arkansas. Like
yeah.
if you
I
watch
think
that game, if you watch that game, they died in the second half.
Then you also have the mystery of Cincinnati, a team who's
yeah,
been rated high since they've done well last year. They've
yeah.
they've gotten the wins. They haven't always looked convincing, but they've gotten the wins this year. So now the big question is, will the college football playoff selection committee let a group of five team in?
Before we get into all that hot mess, I think we should focus on what happened out in out in Utah with the Oregon Utah game, which I think a lot of us kind of smelled the blood when it came to Oregon that they weren't a very consistent team, but I don't think anyone predicted the 38-7 blowout they faced against the Utes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Is if you look at that box score, the Utes just like put the foot took the foot off the gas pedal for the rest of like the game, and Oregon wasn't even able to
It was 28-0 at half.
come back. It was terrible. Like I thought that defense would come up. But when you watch the film, the offense is super sloppy. They look like a high school team out there. They're running like these really weird plays. They're not like getting any yardage. Not being aggressive enough. Like this is another team that we've seen throughout the year. Especially remember that one win against Ohio State, the one that everyone like applauded them for. It doesn't look like that team at all. That's honestly quite a concern.
Yeah, I feel like this has just been a problem with the Pac-12 is they really struggle to have one solid, consistent team go through a full season without messing up. And I mean, this loss by Oregon here takes Pac-12 out of the national championship contention, I'd say. That's pretty clear, so it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, and you could tie all this to when CJ Verdell for Oregon got injured. If you look back at the Ohio State game, Oregon was not very good on the air much at all. It was just CJ Verdell was exposing that defense, more specifically their linebackers. And one or two things happened. Ohio State fixed their defense problems, and CJ Verdell got hurt. Because if you look at the stats for this Utah game, Anthony Brown was sub 50% for barely 200 yards and one touchdown. So like QBR wise, not like a bad game, but it's not going to win you any. And their running back Cardwell, he did average 5 on the ground. He only had 7 carries for 35.
So not very impactful.
Not very, because like a lot of coaches will brag about how they need the ground game to win. A lot of it's BS, but for Oregon, they actually do need the ground game if they want to get anywhere.
Speaking of needing the ground game, Tavion Thomas of Utah, 3 touchdowns.
Tavion Thomas. Crazy.
He really came out strong in the first half and just dominated.
Let's talk about another almost surprising game that was interesting this week: Alabama versus Arkansas.
Yeah.
I personally didn't see this being much of a game, especially seeing how Arkansas has performed all year at home. But Arkansas hung around. They hung around most of the game.
Yeah.
And
shout out to Bryce.
I do.
Shout out to Bryce.
Yeah. Bryce Young's a good quarterback. I think just his mental game needs some development. But I think that's common amongst most young QBs. I think that's the overall trend of this Bama Arkansas game. It was a testament of two mentalities. Because one of the things we've always applauded Bama for is being able, and Nick Saban specifically, is being able to keep his teams mentally tough and like always wanting to win despite having high level of success. And I think like he's starting to face a bit of the symptoms that a lot of teams will face, such as like a Clemson in this Arkansas game, where that team didn't feel as much of an urge to win or to like just end Arkansas. While an Arkansas team led by a very emotional Sam Pittman was able to stay in that game despite getting their ass handed to them during the first half.
I would say I agree with that. Also, I was about to say shout out to Sam Pittman. I mean, look at Arkansas. They went 3 for 3 on 4th down, including a very memorable fake field goal attempt for a touchdown. And I mean, they were aggressive. They were in the game. They were within one or two scores of Alabama the entire game. They were in it. They were fighting, and that's a very hard thing to do. Tuscaloosa is one of the hardest places in the nation to play, especially when you have a top 25 opponent coming in. So, and I mean, as a whole, Sam Pittman has turned Arkansas around. I mean, you look back 2 years ago, and they're losing ugly, ugly games against North Texas and teams that are just nowhere close to SEC quality. And Sam Pittman has come in and just completely turned around the mindset of Arkansas. So
yeah,
good for them.
Good
for him. Good work by him.
I feel like the fake field goal was kind of a little joke towards Nick Saban after that horrendous fake field goal a couple years ago against Clemson in the Natty. So
yeah. Speaking of Clemson, coming out of nowhere,
they're in 3.
Offensive explosion. They take out Wake Forest.
DK is finally starting to come alive.
Who? I'm trying to hear you.
Uyunglele.
Oh my gosh, is he though? He was 11 for 19, 208, one touchdown, one interception. I would say the reason they won this game is their rushing attack.
Yeah.
They had
Yeah,
two running backs go for 191 and 112 with
I
two
believe Ty
touchdowns
Simpson was
apiece.
one of them.
Who?
I believe Ty Simpson is his name. One of the run.
Kobe
It's
Pryor and
it's
Will
Kobe Pace
Shipley,
and Will Shipley.
they combined
Oh, Will Shipley, not Ty Simpson. I
they
was thinking
combined for
someone else.
300 yards and 4 touchdowns. They really needed that run game there.
Yeah, they took
Yeah,
over this game, and I mean, as a whole, Clemson's defense hasn't been bad. They've been playing well. It's just DJ has struggled massively this year. He is nowhere close to the
yeah.
Heisman candidate that he was getting credit for
He's getting a lot of
recently.
hype after the Notre Dame game last year.
Yeah,
It's crazy how both of the guys coming into the season that were projected as Heisman favorites are just gone. Like
of course. The other person, yes,
Spencer Rattlers fell off.
Sam Howell.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam Howell hasn't had
What happened to Sam
hasn't had a
Howell?
bad year. He just hasn't had the Heisman caliber year that everyone
And the problem
expected.
is UNC played like UNC. And,
Sam Howell was projected to be the #1 pick in the NFL draft, and now he's
yeah,
just not even there.
I'd be surprised if he's a second rounder at this point. Like
I'm seeing like Kenny Pickett. Shout out to Kenny Pickett though, who's been balling,
Kenny Pickett.
but like he's going like like rounds before him. Like,
Yeah, let's before we move on to previewing some big games next week. Let's may want to like discuss possible top tens. I know we were discussing before this podcast started recording. My top 10 for the listeners was Georgia, Ohio State, Cincinnati, Michigan, Oklahoma State, Bama, Oklahoma, UTSA, Ole Miss, and then Baylor. And I was getting quite a bit of flack for leaving Bama out of the top four.
honestly, after watching some of the tape, I would agree to say that Bama should not be a top 4 team. They do look shaky, and they're kind of fish. They're probably going to lose to Georgia, but I feel like the committee is not going to leave out Bama just because it's Bama. Like they're
Yeah,
going
like
to.
They'll put Bama at 3. Like for the simple fact that it's Bama, they'll put Bama at 3. They'll find a way to leave Cincy out of it.
Yeah,
oh,
they're gonna.
that would be brutal.
That
I
would
think
be pretty bad.
that would.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that we're probably not going to discuss
I
today,
don't know.
but that would
The
strengthen
college
the argument
football
for
playoff committee is costing themselves their jobs with all these crappy rankings. Like they're the reason everyone's talking about playoff expansion in the
yeah.
first
That's literally
place.
what I was about to say. Like that would literally strengthen the argument for playoff
You are
expansion.
shooting yourself in the foot. Like get your crap together.
Oh
Like ridiculous.
no, but I agree with those rankings. I'm not sure if UTSA is over Ole Miss or Baylor. It's just simply because their strength of schedule is it's not comparable to any of the teams really, the top 25, and it's not their fault. But it's the same argument that's been against Cincy, and I would probably put UTSA somewhere around 10 to 12.
Okay, I can
But
I
and
can see
I
that
would also
argument
I agree with Albie. I would probably put Alabama in top 4 just because I
because
mean you don't
the only thing I hold
when in
against Ole
doubt you don't
Miss,
go against Nick Saban. You just
yeah,
Nick Saban is too legendary. You don't go against him. He always
yeah. The
finds a way.
only thing I have against Ole Miss is the Auburn loss. Just, that just seemed
Yeah,
like very you. You know Auburn. I think what Auburn was ranked at the time. Like Auburn has been a weird team this season. Like shout out to Brian Harsin. I think I expected that team to go 4-8, 5-7. He definitely is building somewhat of a culture over in Auburn, Alabama. But, yeah,
it seems like it's been this for the longest time though. Every single year, Auburn always gets top 25 hype, and then midway through the season, they're sitting there barely over 500, and everyone's
yeah.
shocked. It's just Auburn.
It's all to try to
Auburn
make
to me
sure
is one
the
of the
Iron
biggest
Bowl is
mysteries.
worth anything.
Auburn to me
It's
is one
like
of
I'm
the biggest
sorry.
mysteries because they
Yeah,
just they're I don't know they're not consistent, yet they always get hype. It is very confusing.
yeah. I think they're just trying to make the Iron Bowl more than it seems because like they always play these amazing intros like the Iron Bowl. I don't think the Iron Bowl is that great of a rivalry to be honest. Like Auburn pulls off a crazy victory once every 5 years, and the other four,
Yeah,
Bama just
it's
pets
not
them on
close.
the head and puts them away. Like
Wait, so Nate, do you completely agree with Tarun's rankings for the top 10, or do you have like a different one?
Oh, I myself haven't actually like looked around enough to make a complete top
Yeah.
10 that I feel confident in. But I would let me see. I would mostly agree. Like I said, I would put UTSA out of the top 20. I would probably out of the top 10, and probably have Oregon around that 10 spot. And then I would probably move Cincy down to 4. Ohio State to 5, Michigan to 6, and Alabama at 3. And that's what mine would be,
Not bad.
Because
with Georgia and Ohio State on top.
currently, I
I
think.
get.
Sorry, y'all go.
I know you share your rankings and we'll
So,
move on.
so Georgia obviously is the number one. Like, there's no debating that. The only way they could even fall is if Bama beats them. But I
I
don't
think they'll
even
still
think.
make it. They'll
Yeah,
still
but
make it.
they'll still make it. But yeah, they're the number one. I got Ohio State at 2. I believe in Cincy. I think they should be 3. I have them 3 right now, but realistically, I think they probably fall to 4. And then Bama makes it in last second just because they are Bama. Then I think Oklahoma does win its conference and like does go up, but it's just not good enough to make the college football playoffs. I have them at 5. Then Michigan, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, and I do kind of agree with Nate. I don't know if UTSA should really be in the top 10, but especially because of their strength of schedule, but they do have a really good record. I do see like Oregon maybe coming in, but at the moment I have UTSA at 10.
I
Yeah.
can see that.
I can see your. I agree with most of what you have. My only pushback would be on Oklahoma at number
Yeah,
5.
that one might be just me my bias, but
That might be a little
that might
a
be
little
Okay,
bit.
bias.
moving forward, let's discuss the infamous Week 13 rivalry week and all the crazy matchups that will happen this week. I think
Yeah.
the number one matchup of the week is going to be obviously Ohio State versus Michigan. The top,
Is that the
the
big house or at the shoe?
the shoe is LSU, isn't it? I'm not
Oh
sure
no,
what the
like is it? The shoe is what we is often referred to. What Ohio State Stadium is. Like is
oh no,
Ohio
oh
State
yeah,
home?
I know Michigan. I need to check. I
No,
haven't looked it
no,
up yet.
I think they're playing in Michigan, so I think they're playing at
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
they're at the big house,
I mean,
Ohio
and
State. Oof.
we say that as if Ohio State hasn't owned John Harbaugh like this entire. Not
oh, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But here we are again,
Yeah,
end of the season, playing for a playoff spot and the Big Ten championship. Ohio State versus Michigan.
I think
Can yeah, go ahead.
I think if Michigan loses again to Ohio State, I don't think Harbaugh has more than another year at Michigan, despite what the record says. Unless they somehow beat him next year. Like he's just riding his own
It is
resignation.
insane. It is insane how he can build them up the entire season, do well in such a good. I mean, Big Ten is a solid conference, and John Harbaugh has consistently made good, solid Michigan teams, and yet he just can't. He can't get over the hump at the end of the season and beat Ohio State.
Do you think there's a chance that he leaves for the NFL if he does lose again? Because there are definitely teams that could use a guy like Harbaugh at the helm of their office, at their coaching arsenal. But like,
I
he's
would say
been
I'm not.
pretty
I'm
shit
not.
there.
I'm not sure where we are at this point in the NFL season. We'd have to see what coaching jobs come available.
And
Maybe
maybe he
off
could go to
season.
Las Vegas. Like I don't think Las Vegas has hired a coach yet, but
But the problem is that Harbaugh is a defensive-minded coach first, and I feel like most of the NFL is shifting towards the offensive-minded coach.
I know.
But we're
yeah,
getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here.
Yeah, we are a
yeah.
little bit
Let's
ahead of ourselves.
focus on the game itself. I think
Is it fair to say Ohio State by like 20 plus, just because you know they own them?
if it was
I
at
would say
Ohio
that,
State,
but
then yes. But it's in the big house. I don't think
yes, I feel like this
have it.
year, I would agree, Tarun. Like this year, home crowd advantages have been nuts. If you disagree, look at Texas A&M. I mean, they just lost to Ole Miss in an ugly, ugly loss.
Yeah,
They got
like
completely
you also
dismantled, and
look
this is
at
the same
the
team that beat Alabama. Like it just shows you how much home crowd advantages help. And the Big House is
yeah.
the biggest home crowd advantage in the world. It's it's nuts.
So it's a close game, probably. I'll still take Ohio State though.
It'll
Just
Ohio State like +3. It's gonna be very.
it'll be a nail biter.
It'll be it'll be like that game a couple years ago where there's still fans debating whether JT Barrett got the first down or not. I think this is 2016.
Hmm.
Speaking
And
of
I
Uh,
have fans who are
rivalry games,
I have friends who are Michigan fans who are still pissed about that. That was 5 years ago now, I think.
yet another big top 25 matchup. That's also a rivalry. Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State. And the
Oh,
situation here
Bedlam.
is Oklahoma State has already clinched their Big 12 uh, title game spot, but Oklahoma needs to win in order to make it, or have Baylor lose.
I don't think
But either
Baylor's
way, how do you guys
losing.
feel about this game?
I'm picking Oklahoma for the simple fact that Oklahoma State has a famous history of choking away its potential at going to the playoff. Like, say, last year, we were all hyping them as the new kings of the Big 12, and then Texas went into Stillwater and pulled off an ugly victory.
What if I
So,
told you that I was at Oklahoma State? I changed your mind at all?
maybe.
I think
What if I
Because
gave you? What if
I'm
I gave you
still
a different
not
stat?
very sold on.
What
Depends
if
on
I
what
told you
Caleb
that?
Williams shows up.
What if I told you that right now Oklahoma State has a top 5 defense in points allowed and yards allowed. They're the number 2 scoring defense in the nation right now, 14.9 points per game.
I'm very much aware, but what are Oklahoma's run defense? I feel like that'll play a key role.
Oklahoma or Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma.
I'm looking at.
Like, you don't need to worry about the pass defense against Spencer Sanders. Like, I'm sorry. Like, all credit to the man, but he's not a passer. He's not a good passer.
I just feel like Oklahoma State has had a quietly good season this whole year. They have they've lost. They lost an ugly game to who was it again? I forget. Someone else to
I think it was Iowa State.
yeah, they lost to Iowa State by 3 points.
Yeah.
So yeah, they lost an ugly, unranked matchup versus Iowa State.
That's
Other than
okay.
that,
It's
they've been
not
solid. They
good.
beat a very good Baylor team. And overall, they've been doing well.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
it's really a toss up. I don't want to put my bias into this. I like the bias would say like, oh, give him like Oklahoma, but like barely. But I don't think I have trust in the team at the moment to come up with a big
Yeah.
victory like this.
That's the beauty of rivalry week, isn't it? It feels like it's always a toss up. It's always a toss up.
Yeah.
Speaking of rivalries, my personal favorite, no, it's my least favorite, the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss versus Mississippi State,
Uh,
top 25 matchup
one of
at
the
Mississippi State.
few rivalries between most mediocre teams that is actually a good rivalry.
I mean, you're one to talk about mediocre teams. That's something we'll discuss later. But overall,
Who's
it's
Texas
a
playing this week?
it's an interesting game. You have Matt Corral's Alabama.
And Kansas State.
You got top 25 matchup. This is the first time the Egg Bowl has probably been relevant since 2015, and it's going to be crazy. You got Ole Miss is probably going to be a top 10 team coming into Mississippi State, and the Egg Bowl it is one of the more bitter rivalries I'd say in college football. You got Ole Miss and Mississippi State as the dominant programs in this state, where football is important. There's no NFL team. College football is the number one sport here, and so fans in this state and all residents in Mississippi take this game very personally. It's going
Yeah.
to be crazy. It's going to be
Two
rowdy.
two very different teams from two very different towns from two very different parts of Mississippi clash in Starkville.
And you got one of the top rushing offenses with Ole Miss, and then you have obviously Mike Leach's air raid, which is top 5 passing offense.
I remember when Mike Leach retired by Mississippi State, a lot of SEC fans were talking crap about who runs the air raid anymore, and now he's like his team is 6-4 in their conference.
I do think it does come down to how Matt Corral plays, especially because he is coming into the draft. I feel like if he does
Yeah,
explode, Ole Miss will get this win. But
yeah.
we haven't seen
I
that
think
yet.
Ole Miss wins.
I would say
It'll be a very
season for Ole Miss has been how Matt Corral plays. He is the heart of this team.
he's the
He's carried
catalyst
them.
of their success effectively.
There's no other way to put it. He's carried them. Like Ole Miss without Matt Corral would not have beaten Arkansas or any of their probably first 5 wins would not have happened without Matt Corral. I'd say
Ole
he
Miss
drives
with
them.
you go ahead, Nate.
Well, no, I'm interested to see where you're going this turn.
Okay. The thing is, Ole Miss on offense without Matt Corral is effectively two fast dudes and Snoop. Like Matt Corral brings that team together, especially on the offensive end, that I don't think many quarterbacks can do, which I think what makes him very intriguing to the NFL.
Because when he
And
gets
if you look,
hot, he gets hot.
and if you look recently, I mean, Matt Corral has been banged up. He has been injured ever since the Tennessee game, where he ran for 195 yards, almost 200 yards on the ground as a quarterback. He had 30 carries. Like he has not been the same quarterback. If you watch him, you see he doesn't hit people like he has been. He doesn't move. And if you watch him against Vanderbilt, like Ole Miss versus Vanderbilt, the offense was ugly. But I feel like he was saving himself for this Mississippi State game because he knows he's gonna have to do everything, he's gonna have to leave it all out in the field. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
So it'll be crazy. It'll be a toss up.
Yeah. I think Ole Miss wins by like maybe a touchdown. Not because of like a lack of talent. It's kind of like the Oklahoma Texas game where like no matter how bad Texas is, they always get up for that game. And I
Yeah.
think it's a similar case for Mississippi State.
Speaking of Matt Corral, though, how do you think he has a good Heisman chance, like to actually win it?
I would say honestly, like this hurts me to say, but I don't think he's gonna win it. I think he should be a finalist, but
Two losses.
he hasn't had the passing numbers. Not even the losses. His passing numbers have gone down the past couple of weeks, and it's not even due to his fault. Ole Miss has had their top three wide receivers injured in several games, so he just hasn't been able to be productive. He's gotten 200-yard games thrown to walk-ons, and so I
That's the
just feel like
frustrating thing about the Heisman is that one, it's mostly a quarterback award, and two, it doesn't really take into account all-purpose yards as much as it should, which frustrates me quite a bit.
mhm. So do you
Currently,
think should win Heisman?
Say it again.
Do you think Bijan should win the Heisman? Should win the Heisman?
If our O line, and excuse my language again, if our O line wasn't playing like a bunch of chicken shits, then he would be. But they haven't playing like a bunch of chicken shits this whole year. So, and he's out for the rest of the season.
so currently right now, the Heisman favorites right now are C.J. Stroud at number one, Bryce Young, got Matt Corral, Kenneth Walker, and then surprisingly some interest in Will Anderson Jr., Desmond Ritter, and Jordan Davis. Currently, like I said, C.J. Stroud is the number one by that impressive performance against Michigan State. But who do you guys think actually wins it?
Probably CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I would honestly go with C.J. Stroud too, just because Bryce Young hasn't been. He's kind of he had an amazing game against Arkansas, but he hasn't been like electric as C.J. Stroud has been these past few weeks. Matt Corral, like we
Yeah.
covered, I don't think he wins it. I don't think Ole Miss is good enough to do that, and his numbers aren't like amazing. Kenneth Walker, I think C.J. Stroud cancels him out, especially because they probably do win that conference. But especially because of the
Kenneth
quarterback
Walker is
award.
being invited to New York. Like I don't think Kenneth Walker possibly. I don't think Kenneth Walker or Matt Corral are even invited to New York for the simple fact that they are on two lost teams.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really hard. I think making the playoff basically guarantees you a spot to New York. Get booked your ticket. So I'd say C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, which honestly I don't see Bryce Young as a Heisman candidate. If you watch his highlight clips, like even this week, last week against Arkansas, he had like what a 73-yard touchdown pass. If you watch,
Mhm.
he sits in the pocket for 6 seconds, has absolutely no pressure, and throws it to a wide receiver who has 4 steps on his corner. Like it's not
I would
that impressive.
I would push back on that because you actually look at O line grades. Alabama's O line doesn't have has a grade barely higher than that of Texas O line. Like I'll crap on my hometown team again. Like Bryce Young has had to deal with O line problems. It hasn't been as bad as some people hyped it up to be, but I would push back on the statement that he's just sitting around in the pocket.
I can see that. I just feel like, and it's been a struggle. Like this is why I feel like this is one of the reasons Mac
He's
Jones didn't
overhyped
win
for
the
sure,
Heisman
but like
is that it's just Alabama has so much talent. So it begs the question: is it him or is it the guys around him
honestly,
that make
John
the
Mechie, if Mechie is your safety option, like if you need another receiver, he's your like backup. Like you have too much talent to fill with at that point.
honestly, it might not even be Bryce Young that comes out as the Heisman guy for Alabama. It might be Will Anderson Jr. The amount of pressure and how dominant he is as a linebacker is just insane. Like he sheds blocks really easily. His speed, he's been really impactful. He might not win it just because he's a defensive player, but like I would like to say he is probably the most valuable player on that team right now.
Yeah, it
Like,
has been a year for defensive players being Heisman candidates. I mean, look at Georgia. You got Jordan Davis, an absolute behemoth,
yeah,
tearing it
and
up
like,
all year long. He's been getting Heisman hype. I don't think either are going to win it just because, like Turin said, it's a quarterback award. And I think it takes a
yeah,
lot to change that.
and like the fact that Jordan Davis is ranked behind Will Anderson Jr. No respect, disrespect to Will Anderson Jr. That calls out the Heisman, the people who
Odds
choose
makers.
the Heisman Award more on their crap, because like as a D lineman, you're not gonna have like that's just not how the position works. But if you actually watch the games, you will see that like he's arguably the catalyst of that Georgia defense, the best defense in the country. And I remember a lot of fans were very angry when asked why Michigan's over Michigan State, and they said, "Did you take the head-to-head into account?" And the commissioner of the CFB committee quite literally said, "No, we don't watch the games. We look at analytics." And I think this was the problem in college football, where this is kind of the reason we went away from the BCS. We were too numbers heavy and not like seeing what's actually going on the field.
Yeah. Honestly,
Went
I
on a
would
little
put
rant there.
I would put my money on Stroud, like pretty safely.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
Ritter would be interesting. It would be like it would be a nice story, especially like for
He's
NFL
not a
TV
good
fans.
quarterback.
But he's not that good. I
Doesn't
don't
Who
think
would
deserve
you
a
say
lot.
your dark horse is for the Heisman? Who's someone you could see as like having a monster last game, and then having a great bowl game and maybe winning the Heisman?
I would say Ritter if Cincy makes it into the top four, into the playoff.
Hmm. How about you, Ollie?
honestly I would go with Ritter. Like bias would like to say Kelly Williams, but yeah, it's probably Ritter. Just he has the opportunity to do so.
I'm gonna go with Kenny Pickett. I think he's similar with Matt Corral. Except he's had more success with Pitt.
Yeah,
He's brought Pitt. I think they have a chance to slip into a New Year's Six bowl. Or
yeah,
a very very good non-New Year's Six bowl. And
oh
I could see
yeah,
him making it to New York. I don't necessarily think he's gonna win it, but I think he can make it to New York.
yeah.
He should have a chance.
Let's. I'd say let's talk about some coaches contracts. These coaches have been getting their pockets filled as of late.
Did you
Yeah.
see Lincoln Riley's $100 million contract from LSU?
Yeah, and
How
I
verified
can.
is that?
Uh, that was some leaked. I put an asterisk next to that because I believe it was like a 10-year like. It was like 12 million a year for like 9 years. It was a ridiculous contract. He ended up turning it down. I don't know if that's because Oklahoma pulled the money somehow to pay me even more, or he's just being smart and like deciding like I've built. Here's the thing about Lincoln Riley. He had a gift of a program given to him when he took over for Bob Stoops at Oklahoma. Because unlike other taking over head coaches, he didn't have to rebuild anything. The culture was already installed. The recruiting was already well underway. He just had to drive the car and make sure it didn't crash. And so far, he has done a very excellent job of that. There's no incentive for him to leave a position where he's contending for national championships like almost every year.
You mean
I
like a
don't.
lateral move? That's what I would call it. Just a move
Yeah,
to a position of a similar pedigree. That's the word.
yeah. I think it's a downgrade of a job despite the money because he's already in such a good position at a program
Could you
which
see
he's
him going
also
to the NFL?
no.
Yo, that was a fast note.
I don't think Riley moves to
He's
the
not gonna pull a
NFL
Cliff Kingsbury.
unless Riley like goes to a team of a quarterback that he's coached. I don't think he leaves for the NFL. So like unless Baker goes to like a team that could use a coach, or like Cliff Kingsbury gets fired, or Nick Sirianni gets fired, or even like Caleb Williams eventually down the line. Unless those guys have like a coach opening, I don't think he leaves for the NFL. He probably just follows.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on something really quick. Turin, you were mentioning how coaches get paid. Did you guys see the article about how FBS schools have spent $533 million in dead money, which is paying coaches not to pay for the past 10 years since
It's
2010?
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane.
Insane.
I thought that was an interesting statistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Coming as a fan from a school that loves to throw money at problems, I don't think paying coaches a lot or paying them a lot to leave is the solution all the time.
Really strong
Like,
flashbacks.
Speaking of paying coaches a lot of money, Mel Tucker, massive
oh,
contract.
10 years, 95 mil, like good for him. Like Michigan State had to pull in two like very rich alumni to actually make that contract work. Like their athletic department did not have the money for that contract. That's all donor money.
That's insane. That's actually crazy. All these massive contracts for so long, especially the amount of money they're getting signed for too. It's like more than NFL money.
On the other hand,
Yeah.
you have this year has been pretty crazy in terms of coaches getting fired. You got USC head coach, USC head coaching job open, obviously LSU. Florida just opened up recently,
What
and
do you
there's been rumors that Miami might also open up, and these are all possible landing places for one of the hottest names in college football, Lane Kiffin.
What do you think is the most appetizing place to go as a head coach out of these open spots?
Out of those, I would
LSU.
say USC. I would say actually, that's a good point, Tarun. I mean USC. I think
LSU, you have the state of Louisiana on lock.
yeah, that's true.
Like
I
if you
I
look
could
at
see
the top
LSU.
10 recruits from like Louisiana, like if you look at most states' top 10 recruits, like maybe 4 or 5 of them might go out of state. For LSU, there's like the number 10 guys going to Texas, and the rest of them are all LSU commit.
See, it depends. It depends
Like
on
that's the,
who you're moving because if you're looking for like a straight line to success, I would honestly say USC just because it's the state of California. You're in the Pac-12 and you don't have to play in the SEC West. Like rebuilding in the SEC West is
I mean, yeah, but like
so
true,
difficult.
but
But I would agree that LSU probably has a better talent pool to pull from, and I also think that's true
yeah,
because
and
they don't
like the
have
thing about
anyone to contend with in
USC
LSU,
is
is
like its
Louisiana.
talent pools. USC's talent pool is kind of overhyped though, because like there's a lot of school coaches from Cali who tap into the pool. Like I think like a quarter of Texas recruits for this class are from California, being that Sarkeesian is from that area.
But
From that
like,
area,
but
our quarterbacks from Gardena.
But if you look at it, like at any given moment, if USC got a hype coach, they could pull 5 stars, just 5-star quarterback instantly, and then probably
That's
another
true. Like
5-star player and a couple more 4-star offensive weapons.
this
Just
is a problem for the Pac-12 in general. Like Tua was committed to Oregon before Bama. Bryce Young was committed to USC before Bama. Just
yep.
Currently, LSU is set to bring in five stars in the next 2 years. So the recruiting is definitely like pretty good. It's just
yeah. Well, yeah, but Delani Jackson, the 5-star corner, who was committed to USC, just decommitted. A lot of people have him favored to go to either UMich or Bama.
he's probably going to go to Bama. Everyone decommits to go to Bama.
Hmm. So back to coaching. What do you guys think about Lane Kiffin and him moving, staying, and if so, if he moves, where would he go?
If they win against Mississippi State and then presumably go to New York Six, even if they lose that, I don't think Lane Kiffin is an excuse to leave. Like, and like Ole Miss is going to do everything in their power to make sure he doesn't leave. They're gonna try to pull as close to Michigan State as they can, like get as many much booster money as they can, and like I'm not sure if LSU is as desirable as a job of Ole Miss. Because like think of it logistically, like Oxford isn't that far from the state. Like Mississippi is right next to Louisiana, right? So
Hmm.
Lane Kiffin could think like, okay, like I could go to LSU and have direct access to these recruits, or let LSU keep shooting itself in the foot. I'm over here winning 10, 11 games a year. They're going to come to me either way, and like so, I think that takes LSU out of it. University of Florida, it initially sounds attractive. He's Florida, such a huge talent pool, but that talent pool doesn't belong to any school in Florida this way. They all go to Bama or Georgia as well. And
They
in
go
USC, he's
Miami.
been there.
Okay.
Miami,
I'll say this. I don't think he's going to USA. They literally fired him on the tarmac after a game. Like that. That's
yeah,
not something you can do to someone and then just say, "Oh, we want you back. Come back, coach us."
yeah.
Like, no, there's no way. There's no way he goes back
And
there.
then
But Miami, I know Manny Diaz hasn't gotten fired, but there's been a lot of hype about Lane Kiffin to Miami. I mean, Lane Kiffin
Kiffin.
still owns a house in Boca where he coached at FAU. So Any thoughts like that? I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I mean, it's
I
been
could,
shown that Lane Kiffin
if he
does know what he's
leaves, I
doing.
could see him going to Miami. Because, like, him and him and some of the more younger coaches are a bit more relaxed, aren't as I feel like the vibes Lane Kiffin gives off are definitely more Miami vibes than Oxford, Mississippi vibes. So I could see that, but then again, like Miami isn't the powerhouse it used to be.
I feel like you would need a good quarterback to be brought into the program wherever he decides
And
to
like,
go to really along with the massive
and
contract.
I don't think Tyler Van Dyke is mobile enough to fit into his scheme.
I would say that I think Miami can't pay. Like their football budget is tiny.
It's been shrinking.
It's been shrinking, and so I don't know if they can necessarily outpay Ole Miss in general. I could see
Yeah.
LSU or USC maybe breaking the bank, like get Lane Kiffin, but I'm not sure if he's the coach they want. So, and I know this is like very like just me, obviously, like wanting this to happen, but I think Lane Kiffin stays with Ole Miss after the season.
Yeah.
Another
I think
point I
he
will
stays.
mention is that Arch Manning is coming in 2 years, and Ole Miss is already one of the top schools
He
just
ain't
because of all
going
the
to Ole
connections.
Miss. Okay, let's
Sure.
settle the Arch Manning thing right now. Arch Manning, he's gonna go wherever his grandfather likes the most. So it's gonna come down whether he likes Steve Sarkisian or Lane Kiffin the most.
I would disagree.
And that
I'll disagree completely on that. Not on where he goes, but on why. I don't. I think the Manning family has been very hands off with his recruitment. Like if you look, I mean, they've let him go wherever he wants. They haven't said anything to the press. And you know, I have heard that Arch Manning likes the town of Austin, which is where we live, obviously. But so that's obviously a factor. But I would disagree to say that the reason that Arch Manning goes somewhere is because Archie Manning likes that place.
There's a
yeah,
lot of
true, but like
insiders regarding him. Like
also all the Arch Manning to Georgia thing is just makes no sense. Like
I don't
I
think
don't
that
think
would fit.
Todd Monken would. I don't
Well,
think he would fit well with Todd Monken, assuming Monken stays.
assuming Lincoln stays, but you got to think about it. You mean you're able to go to a place where you already have a solid defense. So
Yeah, but like while you were saying that, like while Archie Manning might not be directly impacting his recruiting, you can't deny that at least his uncles probably are giving him some advice. Like the reason the reason Eli went to Ole Miss and Peyton went to Tennessee, respectively, were not because of chances of winning a national championship, even though Peyton did, is because I believe it was David Cutcliffe about schools
yeah, David
who,
Cutcliffe.
yeah, and they
So maybe
both liked
maybe
that.
Arch Manning's going to Duke. Maybe Arch Manning's going to Duke. Maybe we figured it out. I think.
Duke, oh
I,
well, Cutcliffe is retiring after this year, so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Honestly, I do think it does come between Texas and Ole Miss because Alabama, they got Bryce Young. I don't think they're gonna go for Arch Manning and let him sit for that long.
I would be
Clemson,
stunned if Arch Manning went to Alabama.
I would be like shocked. Clemson, even though DJ's been kind of shit, I don't
Bums.
think they're giving
Clemson's
up on
bums.
him. Georgia,
yeah.
again, like Georgia said, I don't see that. So between Matt Corral is declaring for the draft, it would be a legacy pick because his grandpa went there, Eli went there, his dad went there. He has a very strong chance of going to Ole Miss, especially like with what we've seen from Matt Corral. He could definitely be like a
Yeah.
much better player.
We just take a step back and realize like how ridiculous this recruitment's going to get over the next year, though. Like, think about it this way: his high school Newman and from Louisiana has already gotten
Isidore
exhibition
Bean.
games scheduled against other high schools. They've been broadcasted on ESPN Plus nationally. He's already had Kirby Smart, Lane Kiffin, and other head coaches visit him at high school games. Like it's insane. And
Fusion
it's
as
only going to
well.
get worse as he becomes a senior.
Yeah.
Like this will be one of the I think
Okay.
probably the recruit of the decade. I'd say it right now.
Yeah. Moving on from Arch Manning, let's talk about the portal in general. So, as teams, as some of ours, specifically mine, have struggled, beyond recruiting, the portal has been an attractive way to try to rebuild teams more quickly. So, we'll probably focus mostly on Spencer Rattler and Quinn Ewers. In my personal opinion, I think Spencer Rattler goes to UCLA. I think he's a lot better fit with Chip Kelly than he is with Herm Edwards, and for Quinn Ewers, I think he stays at Ohio State. I can't see him in a Texas uniform as much as I'd love to,
I don't.
but
Does,
that's
does he?
that's
They're both freshmen, so I don't think he gets for like a 5-star to sit for that long behind CJ Stroud. I don't think his ego would let him do that. He probably will transfer. I do like that Spencer Rattler to UCLA thing. He might go. He probably will go to California just because I feel like he's that type of guy.
Yeah, he definitely.
USC if that was available. UCLA right now.
There's a
I still do.
possibility Spencer Rattler goes to Ole Miss, but it depends on coaching changes because obviously
No,
Jeff Lebby could leave.
He's gonna be a
he's not
Red.
going to base it off of coaches. And the reason is he went to Oklahoma based off coaches. The problem with Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma wasn't necessarily the scheme. It's just he doesn't culturally fit in Norman, Oklahoma. He's not going to fit culturally in Oxford, Mississippi either.
Well, I'd say like if you look at Matt Corral pre-Lane Kiffin, he was known for being a quote unquote it was like a hothead. He he got into fights. He like his first game ever was the Egg Bowl as a freshman, and he got into a fight there. He should have got ejected for targeting. I mean, for unsportsmanlike conduct, he didn't. But he was sloppy. He was throwing lasers at people's feet, and then Lane Kiffin and them come in, they clean him up. So you could look at it at the angle like they look at what we've done to Matt Corral. Do you want us to quote unquote fix you too?
Mind
So
Yeah, but like
mind
that
you,
makes
Rattler
perfect
is
sense.
only a
But
1A
like,
guy.
there's only be a sec. Like, just mind that that makes perfect sense. But, like, if you're looking through the eyes of Spencer Rattler, like you're kind of sick. You're probably kind of sick of like the quote unquote South. You kind of just want to go closer to home. Chip Kelly's a kind of a pretty relaxed dude. He could probably easily beat out Chase Garbers over at UCLA. It's a job in a city in which he'd probably much more easily fit in. Chip Kelly's no slouch of an offensive mind in his own right.
I will say in general, the transfer portal is going to be very, very important this year to
Yeah.
team success going forward because what happens is the past year with COVID, the NCAA extended eligibility to all seniors. But this year they're bringing back the roster cap to 85, which means that you have basically 5 classes on a 4-class roster. So
A lot
within
of
each
seniors
team,
though actually kicked out.
yeah, although some of the seniors are leaving, you have basically you still have a whole extra year for a whole bunch of people, and you're signing another high school class. So I think at any given team, you had to cut at least 10 people just to meet the roster cap.
I can speak to this as a fan. During Steve Sarkisian's press conference for the senior day roster, he named a crap ton of juniors. I think 10 juniors he named who hadn't played. Just out of nowhere said they'll be participating as seniors on senior day, meaning they'll
That's
play.
interesting.
So because Sarkisian said he'll bring 35, 40 guys in who are new. So that's 25, 30 guys recruiting and at least 10 guys transfer.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like Nate said, I actually do really like that Rattler to Ole Miss fit because Corral is probably gonna be taken pretty high in the draft. We all know every quarterback just wants to get picked high and wants that money, right? If Corral gets picked high, you can say, hey, look what we did to Corral. He's balling out in the NFL. We think you're better. You were projected to go number 3. He was projected to go number 3 overall this year,
That is
behind
insane. That's so
behind
crazy.
behind Kayvon Thibodeau and Sam Howell. He was supposed to go number
Sam
3.
Howell, oh my God, what has happened this year?
Yeah, he was insane, and he's projected to go in the 4th round right now. He definitely needs to go to a team that can get him some success, but also let his numbers go up, show that he's efficient passer, he has better judgment, and I feel like Ole Miss could definitely do that for him. But through into the UCLA just fits his lifestyle. I feel like he's that type of guy.
Yeah.
Can we remember a quarterback like that who just really didn't. Eli Manning. There you go. He didn't want to go to San Diego. He wanted to go to New York. He really has that
It,
big market idea. I feel like Spencer Rattler has that too, especially because he's kind of a dickhead.
it depends. It
Yeah.
depends. If he sees it as I want to go somewhere where I feel comfortable, he'll probably go to UCLA. And if he's looking at
Yeah.
it more from
And
a
then
professional pro standpoint of I'm gonna be able to have an insane year, he'll probably go to Ole Miss because I don't know if UCLA has the just the ability to send quarterbacks to the NFL that Ole Miss has right now with the coaching staff they have in place.
yeah.
Do you think he would go to Georgia though?
And then
Is that even a possibility?
no.
No, no.
No.
Georgia has basically 2
Todd
identical
Monken
quarterbacks
is
with
no
eligibility.
quarterback, man.
Georgia's quarterback situation confuses me so much because they're the same person. It's so confusing. Their stat lines are just identical.
It's so tough because Jake Daniels will kick Stetson Bennett's ass any other school, but it's Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ugh.
moving on to Quinn Ewers specifically. Quinn Ewers, he's kind of the reason Tom Herman got fired from Texas because he specifically said he really wanted to go to Texas, he just couldn't deal with Tom Herman, and even Sarkisian being hired couldn't bring him back. So even though like all the logic says he'll go to Texas, after the past 11 years, I don't see him going there. I'm not sure where else he would go, but that's my 2 cents.
I don't think it'd be realistic for a guy to sit that long, and like they
Yeah, I think
could
he'll transfer.
find
I'm not sure
someone.
where he'll go though.
Yeah, I mean we always saw like a Mac Jones situation too, right? He sat that long. He had one very good year, and he got picked 15th, and now he's like insane. But I don't think
But
Ewers
Mac
has.
Jones is a 3-star with no clout.
That is true. Ken
Quinn
Ewers
Ewers
is
has
No,
made a
it
million
was
in
literally Nick
NIL.
Saban. Nick Saban being a wizard of recruiting,
yeah, but
scouting someone.
Quinn Ewers is not Mac Jones. He's a 5-star recruit, and he kind of
Mhm.
does have an ego too. He would I don't think he'll sit behind CJ Stroud. He'll probably leave, but like, he's still in high school right now, right?
No, he graduated a year early to go to. He should be
Oh
senior
yeah.
right now, but no.
So yeah, he
Yeah.
definitely.
Speaking of speaking of Texas, there's some talk that Texas starting quarterback Casey Thompson could also transfer for the simple reason. This isn't like a mainstream thing, but it's just a lot of talk about Texas fans. Like, Sarkisian's been throwing that dude under the bus this entire year. He's been playing through like a hurt thumb the entire year. There's a lot of suspicion he has torn ligaments in his thumb. Um, and then
Yeah,
that could possibly open up a lane for Quinn Ewers to slip into Austin. But
I feel like
yeah,
bringing Quinn Ewers into Austin would be
it's
insane, especially if you don't get Manning. That would be
it.
definitive.
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how Sarkisian goes at the transfer
Quinn
portal.
Ewers would drive Manning over to Ole Miss though. So
And vice versa, honestly. Like I could see Ewers going to Ole Miss. Like, depending on
yeah,
how
if
that
Ewers goes, the thing is, if Ewers goes to Texas, Manning goes to Ole Miss and vice versa. That's my personal opinion.
literally everything depends on Matt Corral.
What do you mean on Matt Corral?
Because look,
Like
if he gets drafted super high, right, and like
He will.
he goes
I'm telling
he will, right, but like depending on where he goes and like the contracts he receives, they can always say, look what we did to Matt Corral. We could do
Yeah.
this to you.
yeah, because
Well,
like
I will
Quinn Ewers
say
has
is that
already made his money. Market isn't his problem anymore. He just needs to be developed.
I think part of the problem with Ole Miss is that Jeff Levy, our offensive coordinator, has a high chance of leaving. I mean, I mean, you look at him, he's been an absolutely insane offensive coordinator. He was at Baylor with Art Briles. He was with UCF. He was with UCF during the second part of their undefeated stretch, their quote unquote national championship seasons. And then he's been at Ole Miss, and you've just seen like what he's done with Matt Corral. So it'd be hard to see like some mid-level struggling program not hire him, especially in Texas. Like I could see Jeff Levy to TCU, and so if Jeff Levy leaves, I mean, I wouldn't see us as attractive. But you never know with Mike Giffen.
Well, TCU is going mainly for Sonny Dykes, Southern Methodist. So
Southern Miss, SMU has been very impressive this year. I'll say this: I think they're on the brink of a rebirth, especially with NIL and everything. I think the market of Dallas is very open for that to SMU, and they've done extremely well in the past couple of years with transfers. Just
I
literally
was
only
surprised
Texas
that
and Oklahoma.
the Big 12 didn't let them into the realignment conference.
I think they just
Because
didn't
like
have
if you let SMU in, you basically crack Dallas wide.
they just don't have the overall like athletics program success. And if they keep one Dallas team with TCU, then they can dominate Dallas instead of having to split the
I mean,
market.
yeah, but like, why would you end BYU not SMU?
BYU's a little
Like
confusing. I
BYU's
mean,
had
it's
two
a good
winners.
school, and I can see why they want to hire. It doesn't make sense for Big 12. That kind of just makes them a national conference at this point.
Yeah, your entire conference is stretching from Provo, Utah, to Morgantown, West Virginia. Like, what the hell?
No, what is it? What city is UCF in? I don't know, but it's going all the way down to Florida,
Oh wait, you're right,
He was in
Orlando.
Orlando, yeah.
Orlando.
Disney World.
The
Mormons
four
to Disney
corners of
World.
the Big 12: Waco, Provo, Orlando, and Morgantown.
They really
Obviously.
go from Mormon land to Disneyland. Like, that's a massive conference.
That's Big 12 just killed itself, didn't it?
Okay.
Okay.
Speaking of getting killed, the Bills. Do y'all see what happened to them?
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor, 5 total touchdowns.
I'm aware.
He's the first running back in the league right now to have over
53.5 in
1,000.
fantasy.
Oh my, yeah, I had him on one of my leagues. He's insane. He's the
5 touchdowns
only
overall.
running back in the league right now with over 1,000 yards. He has 13 touchdowns.
Yeah,
13
he's
rushing
been
touchdowns, not like actual.
dominant.
I think he has 16 total, but he has 13 rushing touchdowns right now. He's been dominant, really. Would
And
you say it's a stretch to call him the best running back in the league right now, though?
I honestly, I don't know. With Derrick Henry being
I'm
out, it's
willing to.
possible. It's so unfortunate
Let's
Derrick
talk
Henry
about
got
the
out. He was
fact that they're Let's talk about the fact that the Bills are 6-4 right now. After we like me specifically, I thought they would go to the AFC Championship.
Yeah, they're not the NFL has been very weird this year. There's a lot of teams that are like essentially 500, but are competing for a high seed. Like right now in the AFC, being 6-4, which is essentially like being close to 500, would get you a 4 seed. Like you're very
Yep.
close to that. The NFL has been whacked this year.
I mean, just look at Kansas City. You got Kansas City. You got New England. You got Baltimore. It's just lots of not necessarily impressive teams, but
The
they're
thing that's
still
the thing
getting
that's
the job
crazy
done.
is that the Bills are top 5 defense right now in every statistical category. They were like number 2 in rush defense. They plummeted to 5 just from Jonathan Taylor.
That's funny.
That's insane. But yeah, do you think their playoff chances? Do you think Indiana? They're 6-5. They are currently the 9 seed technically, but with like a good stretch of games, they are definitely in the playoffs. Because I think after this they play the Bucks, the Texans, the Patriots, Cardinals, the Raiders, and the Jaguars. With a few wins here, do you think they make the playoffs?
I think it. I mean, I think it depends on Carson Wentz. I mean, he's been playing well. As
As
long as he
long as
can
you don't,
compliment Jonathan
as
Taylor.
long as you don't bend both ankles again, he'll be fine.
How do you bend both of your ankles at the same time? How does that happen, Carson Wentz? That's just stupid.
Huh. I mean, what other
Could you
big
imagine
NFL
the
games
Colts
are this weekend?
offense? Could you imagine the Colts offense with Sam Ellinger and Jonathan Taylor? Like that'd be very not even good, just weird.
I
Because you
can't
have
imagine Sam Ellinger in the NFL. I still can't. I have no idea how that would happen.
I don't know how he
he
almost
improved so much during.
Okay, Sam Ellinger is like the definition of just like basic quarterback in my mind for some reason.
he's like a replacement level quarterback at this point.
He's
No.
like
He's a great
Colt
college
McCoy in
player,
the
not a
NFL.
great college quarterback. Like the reason Texas
Sam
fans
Ellinger in
love Sam
college was like
Ellinger
Colt
is not
McCoy in
because
the
of his
NFL.
arm. It's just that dude was willing. The thing is, yeah, I understand from a Texas fans' perspective. After like a decade of teams that were just unmotivated, to have a quarterback, despite his lack of arm talent, to go and just carry you to win games you should not have won. Like we don't get the Big 12
Yeah,
championship if it isn't for Sam Ellinger. He's most of his value as a player is mostly from his mental game more than his physical
his
attributes.
grit, his grit. That's what his best
He
aspect
has
is.
grit. That's
But the thing is, like, that
yeah.
doesn't work in the NFL because everyone just
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely
that's
destroys you.
yeah.
Speaking
Okay, let's focus on the
speaking of
Vikings and
further,
Packers game.
Kirk
That was
Cousins really showed
it was
up.
a weird game yeah,
Kirk Cousins has
because like
been
Aaron
going
Rodgers
off
didn't play
recently.
bad. Like
I don't know if I'm jumping the gun too much, but I do believe this Vikings team is a playoff team. I think this offense is a Super Bowl offense. They are stacked at every major position. Their offensive line has been improving, especially with the addition of Christian Darrisaw. Their wide receivers are amazing. Dalvin Cook is Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins,
Tight end.
despite getting shit on like by people, he's a top 10 quarterback. He's very good.
Don't
Their
forget tight ends.
secondary,
No,
their
no,
Yeah.
no,
no,
no.
their corners are atrocious, but their D line is very good. Their linebacker core, when healthy, is pretty solid. I do think this team is a playoff team. They should definitely make the playoffs. But like, suppose I know this is getting a little too ahead, but like, suppose Stephon Gilmore reaches free agency and they do sign him. I do think this could be a Super Bowl team. They just have that offense, especially with Justin Jefferson being so young.
Oh, I gotta push back on Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is a Spencer Rattler at the NFL. When the going is really tough, then he finally shows up.
I
Like
mean,
he has a very high ceiling, but like his floor is like three basements down. Like
yeah, when the lows are bad, but currently he's
there's a
been
lot of
very
them.
good. He's been very good in Minnesota. Like last year, he put up
I mean,
35 touchdowns
yeah,
and 13 interceptions. Quite good
yeah, but he's
numbers.
not $84 million good.
That is true. He got a massive contract out of nowhere.
And they're
And
five and five. Like let's look at the Vikings' future games because this plays a role.
Your schedule.
the schedule, yeah.
Yeah, their schedule,
As some would
their
say,
remaining schedule. So
Mm,
they play the 49ers, the Lions, and the Steelers. I think if they don't choke, those can all three be dubs.
they'll all be
They
the
play
dub. I
the
think the
49ers.
Bears.
Bears.
The 49ers are interesting. I'll
I,
say
I
that.
think I think the
True.
Vikings
Actually,
going.
no, you're
I think the
right.
Vikings
Because
going a
didn't
couple
they
more
just beat the
games.
Rams by like a lot?
They
I
just
think the
smoked the Rams.
I think the
And they're using
Vikings going a couple
apparently
more
they're using
games
Debo
stretch.
Samuel as a running back now, and it's very confusing, and I don't understand it at all. They're trying to make him the new. Wait, who's the guy who's a wide receiver and running back? I forget.
Cordell Patterson.
Uh,
Cordell Patterson. That's what it is. Yeah, they're trying to make Debo Samuel that.
Honestly, I think the Vikings can go on like a 4 game stretch of wins. They're all very winnable games if you
then
look
they hit
at
the
it.
Rams,
Then they hit the Rams. I think the Rams game
and
they
then the Packers
lose
again at Green
in
Bay.
Lambeau. Back to back L's. I think they beat the Bears. So I think they can finish up the season like what is that? Five
They
and two.
finished like 10-7.
5-2, which is like 10-7 exactly. That's definitely a playoff team. They definitely should we
Uh,
be worried about the Packers though? Because
no,
they kind of
they're
they
fine.
haven't been the same. I mean, maybe just me. I don't really believe in the Packers anymore. They've been in the same like form for the past like
Yeah, yeah. The same,
7 years of
and
my
their
life.
form is going to the NFC Championship and then choking.
Yeah,
They'll
like
be
I don't I
fine.
don't
Like
I don't think we should put that much trust in them. They play the Rams, play the Ravens. I would be concerned about the Browns, but the Browns kind of suck now. And yeah, they have a pretty easy
Browns are a
season.
whole different situation.
Speaking of the Browns,
Yeah.
speaking of the Browns,
Oh my gosh.
they put up 13 in the first half and did not score for the rest of the game.
And I think Browns fans were
mm,
aware of that.
Brown,
They
the
made it
Browns
known
have
they were
been
aware
plagued
of
with
that.
injury. They've been plagued with injury. The team that came into the season is not the team that's going to leave the season.
The running back room is just gone. It's just
It's hurt. Their
non-existent.
offensive line is great, but their wide receivers are very questionable. Odell, the releasing of Odell was honestly just. I felt
Pain.
like there was so much more that could have been done with Baker and Odell and been great for his development, but a
Oh,
run-heavy
they'll just
team
want it out. He
doesn't
just
work.
saw it wasn't happening.
Yeah, it's
I feel bad. I feel bad for Baker. I mean, he got booed by his
I
own
do
fan
I
base.
do
That's
feel bad for
brutal.
Baker.
yeah, what's with those Sooners fans? Y'all have no damn loyalty to players.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
I still love Baker. It's the Browns fans. There
no,
so many
I'm talking
Browns fans.
overall. Like
Oh,
I'm saying first overall. Like you champ Spencer off, then you champ Caleb off during the Baylor game. Now you
I
champ.
don't know. I feel like that's just how fans are at times. I don't know.
I know.
Speaking,
There's so much to criticize about Oklahoma because of their record.
I want
Imagine
to
a UT program
I want to
going
put
crazy.
in some context because this is a contract year for Baker Mayfield.
I can't
Rookie
argue that
year,
one.
rookie year, he puts up 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions on like close to 4,000 passing yards. Next year, he does as many interceptions as touchdowns. Then last year, 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. This year, 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. We're 10 games into the season. Would you guys pay Baker Mayfield his big contract?
It honestly depends how he closes. I mean, these next like
Um,
what 5 games are gonna be crucial.
I would say yes, because the number one problem for the Browns franchise is consistency. Like, remember how relieved Browns fans were when they finally found a decent quarterback?
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true.
Like, I think
And you
Browns
gotta,
fans are getting too cocky now that they're finally winning.
Mhm.
Like,
Another thing you have to look
I
at
think
is
a lot of
that
them forgot they were 0-16 like 5 years ago. Like,
Hmm.
calm
Not
down.
even.
Six
It
and
was like
five is
3.
perfectly.
Another thing to look at is that.
No, it was the year before. No, it was 2 years before they drafted Baker.
Oh, okay. Another thing to look at is that there aren't that many impressive quarterbacks in the draft this year. Like there are some solid picks with solid people with potential. Like I think
Even Matt
Matt Corral is
Corral,
good.
he's gonna need some
I,
more molding once he gets to the
okay,
league.
but Matt Corral is not Tua. He's not Trevor Lawrence. He's not Joe Burrow. He's
I don't
I know.
he's
That's what I'm
good.
saying. I'm saying like even the best one, Matt Corral, needs some molding when he gets to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with
I
you.
don't think I don't think the Browns get a quarterback in the draft if they replace Baker. I think they go for like free agency or make a trade. Like
Colin
They'll
Kaepernick.
probably give him a smaller contract.
Aaron Rodgers is still on the market. Surprise somehow. Deshaun
Yeah.
Watson,
But
if he's not,
if
Oh,
Odell isn't
okay.
at Cleveland, what
Let's relax,
incentive does he
Avi.
have to go?
Deshaun Watson, if he's like not an evil human being,
The
might be on
Texans
the
are like
market.
desperate for him to come back. It's funny they still haven't released him.
I mean, if they
Because they're
release
waiting for the
him, they'll like lose so much cap space.
I know.
they're
Under
waiting for the court case to settle. Because let's assume he's found guilty. Like I don't know anything about the case, but if he's found guilty, I don't think they're obligated to pay out the rest of his contract.
Hmm.
I'm not really sure about the NFL laws in that instance. Yeah.
honest, I know this is kind of like maybe it's
Wait.
on the
Let's
precipice.
talk. Speaking of the Texans, how do you feel about them this week? Going and getting it done.
That's just
You proud?
everyone does that.
Pulled it off against the Titans, man.
It was beautiful. At the Titans too.
I mean,
It was
that,
just
that Titans
it was
have been.
not an impressive night for Tennessee. Could not get their run game going at all. And when you have the team like Tennessee
Man,
who relies on the run game, their whole offense is built around Derrick Henry.
because
Tannehill's just not
I
that guy.
still
And
don't
you're seeing
understand
he,
why
Derrick
they
Henry was
signed Adrian
hurt.
Peterson. Why
he
did
throws Tannehill throws 4 picks. They just struggle overall.
why did they sign Adrian Peterson to be that replacement running back instead of like Todd Gurley or anyone else?
Exactly.
They need a workhorse.
If you want workhorse, run Deontay Foreman. The dude's getting 40 a day at Texas.
Yeah.
God,
I'm not even joking. Like if you look at his averages, it's like 30 plus carries wise.
that's funny.
Insane.
Speaking of teams in Texas, the Cowboys and the Chiefs. The
Oh,
Cowboys have
Cowboys.
collapsed. Not collapsed. Their rushing game has been pretty
They're,
bad these past 2 games. They have not scored a single rushing touchdown in the past 2 games.
They went
Zeke
from a
needs
team
to
that
No. They
Zeke
have.
needs a
Never
Ben
mind.
Simmons
Never
moment.
mind.
they've got
They
they've
haven't
Zeke
scored.
needs an off season where he's posting stupid inspirational videos of him getting in shape to get any fan support at this point. Like I think a lot
who?
of Cowboys fans have had
This is
Zeke. I
honestly
feel
one of
like
the ugliest games of the week. Just
Zeke
because.
started off well. Zeke started off his season well. He was doing well, and then just
Yeah.
past couple weeks he struggled. I mean, the Cowboys were a team who at a point were struggling to like know which running back to run. They had Tony Pollard and Zeke both going nuts in the first like several games, and now their rushing offense is just gone.
yeah. I don't think they're collapsing simply because like you'll see this often in the NFL where like you go from like such a bad season last year, I think it was like 6-9 or 7 or 8 or whatever it was, and to go to like 7-3, like
Yeah.
you're not completely erasing last year's team, right? There's still gonna be some remnants, like especially from a mental aspect. So I don't panic too much over the loss. I think we still make the playoffs just in the position we're in.
Yeah. No team in the NFC East can take away your playoff berth. Like looking at their schedule, right? They play the Raiders on. They play the Raiders Thanksgiving. Then they play the Saints, who
We're
are missing Alvin Kamara. Then they play Washington twice, the Giants, Arizona with Kyler probably back by then, and then the Eagles. So I do think y'all finish very strong. There's a chance you could finish with a 1 seed, in my opinion. It's
Hmm.
very possible.
Speaking of
if we win
Arizona and
out.
Texas, how do you guys feel about Colt McCoy, getting his
Bro,
Yes,
success
sir.
Colt,
years removed from
Colt
college?
motherfucking McCoy. That Seattle is terrible. I have no idea. That team is just bad. We went from
It's just
12-4, right? The
Seattle fans just go pain. Like they were all
No,
just
yeah,
waiting for
no,
Russ to
literally
come back.
12. We were 12-4 last team year. We have the same exact offense, and we suck. Think about this, right? Last year we averaged 30 points a game. This year we're averaging 15.
Oh my
How?
god.
We were the number one offense last year, like close to it, like top three.
The
Now we're
quarterback's
bottom
Geno
three.
Smith.
Now we're bottom three. Like even with the game, Russ is there. Like we suck. This team is so bad. The Cardinals have looked very good though throughout the entire season, especially with Kyler. They're utilizing him very well, especially with the running. They're able to get DeAndre Hopkins involved. I do like seeing Rondell Moore there. He might not be the best Moore in the league, but like
Yes, I agree.
Elijah Moore. But
Yes,
he's
obviously. We'll get to that later.
but yeah,
I would say how much do you think Chris Carson being out for the year hurts Seattle
a lot.
right now?
Because right now, if you look at the running back room, Rashad Penny, who I really hate because we drafted him like right before Nick Chubb. He's always
Oh
hurt.
my god, you did. You
Yeah,
drafted him before Nick Chubb.
we drafted him we drafted him like 27th, and then Nick Chubb went at 34. We
Where did he go to college? Where did Sean Penny go to college? That is
San
not a
Diego
smart.
San
State.
Diego State.
You picked it. You picked him over someone from
He
Georgia.
no he
What?
led the league. He led the Pac-12 in rushing yards, and we picked him over a guy who was the best running back
They're
in
not even, you
college.
mean the Mountain West?
I don't give a shit. Like
Nick Chubb was a
it doesn't
god
matter.
his
Yeah.
senior
He was
year. What?
Rashad. No
Do
one knew who
you know
Rashad.
what
No,
do you know what you need the Mountain West in rushing yards?
no,
You
yeah,
need two legs and 5 pennies.
yeah, he sucked. He was not good, but like he's out. He tore his ACL. Chris Godwin. Chris Carson has like the neck of a 50-year-old grandpa who like spent
Yeah,
his day working in a
his
coal
injury
mine.
report is. I can't even understand what it is.
He's gone. Alex Collins. I think we might have picked up Alex Collins from like the local gas station. Like he's just a random. Like he's been good for us, but like that is the guy that we're gonna have to run the ball with in this scheme. And honestly, I think it's pretty safe to say this. Pete Carroll's getting fired. He's done after this season. He's he's the oldest coach in
Oh,
the league right
wait.
now.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Pete Carroll to USC.
Yes,
Honestly,
I was about to say that.
honestly, I would not mind that. I think he should
That would
just
be that would
go.
be pretty funny. That would be pretty funny. That
I,
would be hilarious.
I saw this one really stupid report that I don't think is even like remotely possible. It would be very ironic though if Michigan loses to Ohio State again. They fire him. We fire Carroll. Harbaugh comes to Seattle and replaces Carroll. That would just be like the ultimate spit in the face. And then Carroll goes
That
back
would
to
be you.
USC.
You would. You would just spiral into depression if that happened.
That would be like super sad. Just because then it would make the offense even worse. It would help our defense, like getting a defense be defensive oriented again. But like,
Okay, but Seattle's been a team that relies on their offense, and then they worry
yeah,
about
our
defense
defense
later.
sucks. Our defense
You
sucks.
had Legion of Boom, and then you're kind of like Ole Miss, honestly. Like Ole Miss had the Landshark defense 2013-14. We were top 5 in the nation in defense, and then Hugh Freeze decided to, you know what? I'm only going to recruit 5-star defensive players, and so I mean,
Offensive
then
player.
he gets fired, and Ole Miss has genuinely no defensive talent. That's what happens with you guys. You guys focus on offense, and next thing you
Yeah, I
know,
was about to say that.
it's all
No
pain.
one can give crap to Ole Miss about defense because they haven't recruited a solid defensive player in 5 years.
Well, it's not that they have no depth. They have genuinely no depth. So
All the good
they
ones
have mid
freshmen.
starters, and that's it.
The thing that pisses me off
Like
though
it's been
Okay.
ugly. It's been
we didn't
ugly.
lose to
Before we
we
get too
didn't
much
lose to
off
Colorado.
topic,
The thing that
before we
pisses me
get too
off
much
is that
off
we lose to
topic,
them.
so for the Seahawks, who do you think is to blame, Russ or Pete?
Pete.
Like,
Pete should leave. His offensive Pete and Ken Norton, our defensive coach, they're so bad. The Waldron offense has been fine when healthy, like everyone's healthy and everyone's playing up to good, but the defense has been horrible. I read the stat somewhere. The Seahawks are the like lead the league in same coverage snaps. So like the coverage they come out in is the coverage that they actually play with 92%, meaning an entire
couldn't disguise anything.
meaning an entire drive. You could like a quarterback just knows it. It's the same exact coverage, and we're not even sitting in like anything. That's really impressive. It's cover two. Like
That's
that's
not
not
good.
that's not hard to bomb for like any good quarterback.
Especially in a year where you guys have just like you guys added uh defensive back talent recently. Like you should have
Think
been able to
think
complicate
about
stuff.
this, right? Last year, Trey Flowers was like he was on the bench. He was our starting cornerback this year for a very long time. We're playing backups in our secondary.
Okay.
It's actually painful to watch every
Rune's over
time.
here
Okay.
laughing about secondary. Like, well, have
So
you
do you
heard about?
think Russ is traded?
I don't think Russ gets traded. The situation in Seattle is complicated because Pete Carroll should get fired at the end of the year, even if we make the playoffs, which I don't know. I don't think happens. Even with like the easy schedule we have for like the rest of the year, I don't think we make the playoffs. But Pete Carroll should get fired. Russell Wilson trade, it would help us, like as a team, get assets. But he loves Seattle. I don't think he wants to like the city itself. I don't think he wants to leave. So like I don't think he would request a trade.
But like
But
he's
at the
also
same time,
32, turning 33.
yeah, but yeah. So like he would want to win another ring. My question is, where would we trade him to if we wanted to like? Because Denver doesn't look
Hmm.
like they're. I would say Denver was a cool
I
spot,
was
but
thinking New Orleans.
New Orleans is
Carolina?
also interesting. So Carolina would also be interesting. This, but are those teams really like contenders? Contenders?
I'm interested to see what Matt Rule does when he gets a quarterback. I'm a
That's also what I want to see too. Because
Sam Darnold's not it. It's so funny. Like
I
the
was
Jets, like you know, it's not good when the Jets don't like use him, and then you trade for the Jets. Like that's when you know, like it's not good. Just been underperforming. There's no other
I
way to
was
put it.
thinking about like Russ to Washington. That'd be interesting, especially with like a good out of line.
I've heard a lot of
But
hype about like Washington
but
drafting.
but the
So
thing that doesn't make sense is that Washington sucks this year. They can just take Matt Corral. They
yeah,
don't
that's
need
what I was
Russell
saying.
Wilson.
I've heard a lot of Matt Corral to Washington.
So that's another issue with the Russell Wilson rumors. Where would we trade them? Other like outside of the Saints, no one really has a case
Maybe
for
San
Russell.
Francisco. Like
We would not trade if
no way that Trey Lance.
I don't think we would trade
Maybe the
Miami.
Colts.
Russell Wilson and Miami would be cool, especially with their pick depth. But they have
The
they
offense
actually
isn't built enough around him.
they're also their offensive line is like Texas's. It's just chicken shit. It sucks. And like it's actually like, horrendous. There's no team right now that I would really think Russell Wilson would get traded to, especially with like the conditions
No
he'd
way.
have to meet.
But he has a no trade clause though, so
Oh yeah, he also has a no trade clause, so he'd have to pick which teams to get traded to.
yeah.
That's that. But yeah, I do think it's on Pete Carroll and Ken Norton. But like the solution is a lot harder to get than like it's harder to reach like a positive direction than we are right now. However, speaking of coaches who are like pretty shit but like doing really well, the Cardinals. I thought Cliff Kingsbury should have been fired last year. He was not good, but he's turned this team around like a lot. The
Also
Cardinals,
like
yeah,
just to throw on one more thing to the Russell Wilson fire. I would have said Atlanta, but then Calvin Ridley decided to take some time off for mental health. Like all the best luck to him, but like
yeah.
I think
And I'll say I'll be based on your topic. How do you feel about the oh shoot, my brain, the Pats? How do you feel about them this year?
The Patriots. I think Mac Jones has been. I think he's the rookie of the year. Him and Jamar Chase are the guys in contention. Just because
Yeah.
he went to the
Mac,
perfect system.
he
That's
went to the perfect place for him to play, and he's been amazing. They are currently sitting at the 3 seed right now. The Patriots. They at one point of time they were the 1 seed in the league, and they currently have to play the Titans without Derrick Henry, the Bills again, the two Bills games, the Titans, the Colts, the Jags, and the Dolphins.
Okay,
There's a
here it
good.
is.
Mhm.
Here's an interesting thing. Mac Jones has more passing yards this season than Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield.
actually that makes me think like this is obviously a hypothetical scenario. Like might be it's definitely off topic, but like I feel like Trevor Lawrence and Metcalf would be a very interesting duo.
DK Metcalf?
Honestly,
Yeah, DK.
I know that. Wait, did Corral and DK ever like play with each other?
Yes,
No.
Corral's
Okay.
freshman year. redshirt freshman year, he played with DK Metcalf.
Uh,
They were together. He
so
was
it
he was
wouldn't be
there
like
while AJ and DK
so
were
it
there.
wouldn't be like much of a connection. I don't know. I actually kind of wanted, if you remember from earlier this season, I wanted to get Matt Corral like pretty
Yeah.
badly, but that's not gonna happen.
Maybe you
An
guys
option,
should bomb for him
an
because
option would be
Macron
like
won't be a top
interesting.
5 pick. He'll be like a top 10 pick, I'd say.
An option that would be kind of interesting though is I've talked to some people about this. Russell Wilson to the Browns. Like
Yeah,
this
I was thinking about
bad.
that
But
too.
they lost Odell. They got rid of Odell.
That
They
yeah,
still have Jarvis Landry.
that's the problem now. They have Odell. They have Odell gone. He won't come back unless like if they get Russell Wilson and Odell's like, oh shoot, maybe I should come back. Like I don't think that happens.
It's confusing that Odell went to the Rams because they're already kind of stacked. Like he got really lucky. He got so lucky that Robert Woods got injured. 'Cause I guarantee Odell would be buried right now if Robert Woods hadn't got hurt.
Yeah, I don't know. The trade market in the NFL is all like tossed up in the air. The Rodgers issue, the teams that wanted him are like disappearing, but like it's not like the Packers have gotten that much better. Deshaun Watson might not even be touching a football ever again. He might just be getting touched. He's not.
Oh,
He's
Oh,
like
don't go there.
he's done. He might be done. And there's like not many other people who are on the market. So yeah,
yeah,
He
it's
might be in the
interesting.
Sean Oakman
The next 5 weeks for
situation.
the NFL will be they'll be exciting, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think this year there isn't really a dominant team. I mean, for a second, it looked like the Cardinals were going to be that, but then they weren't. So, I
at the
mean,
beginning
it's
of the
going to
year, I
come
thought
down
the
to
Rams
the
would be
last couple of
insane.
weeks for playoffs.
Yeah.
And then
And
obviously,
moving on,
oh, it just, what do you want to say, Jordan?
I say we move on to the MVP talk.
Sure.
Oh yeah, this is
Um,
like the Heisman candidacy this year. There hasn't been a clear favorite for most of the year. Like at this point of time
I
last
would
year, we're like,
say,
oh, sorry.
yeah. Go on, Bobby. You were saying something.
Last year, like we had like Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, and like I guess Josh Allen. That's like a dark horse, right? But like we were coming down to like two or three guys. There's no two or three guys this year. There's like a massive list of people. Like anyone can win the award right now. So who do y'all think is the favorite?
Derek Carr. No, I'm just
Kyler
kidding.
Murray.
Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray. I'll say Matthew Stafford. I'll say that. That's my pick. I think he has a chance to do that.
I think Stafford has had too much variation. He's had a lot of very good games, and from some few games that just the crap hit the fan.
I just really like the Rams this year. I don't know why. I just really like how they're performing. I think they're a solid team.
Do
I
you
think
think it's almost like a Mac
the
Jones
defense very
situation
well.
last year, where it's like he's not very good in himself, but just his team is so stacked, he looks amazing.
Who?
Do you think Stafford this year is kind of like Mac Jones last year at Bama, where he himself isn't, and
But is that even a valid argument? Because look at Mac Jones now.
play itself isn't
He's
amazing?
doing well.
I know.
So I would just
I'm
say
just saying, like the
it's
way
kind of
we
like what
analyzed Mac Jones last year was like, oh, his team is around him is good. That's why he's getting an award.
I don't know. It's
Are you
interesting.
viewing that kind of the same as with Stafford
I don't know. For Stafford practically got jailbroken out of Carolina, and now he's in an actually
in Detroit?
functional offensive system. Oh, sorry, Detroit. My bad. I was thinking of Sam. I don't know. My brains. But yeah, it's interesting. He's having a good year. You know, he's a top 5 quarterback, I'd say, easily. And his team has a really good shot because of how they've been playing. You know, they have way too much defensive talent. They have a good shot to go far in the playoffs. So we'll see.
Yeah. Bobby, what's your pick? And we'll do a little bit of playoff outlook and call it a day.
Honestly, at the moment, it's just too hard to like really pick because the guy like if you look at the guys right, Kyler Murray he has the best team in the league right now, but his touchdown numbers aren't insane. For comparison, he has less touchdowns thrown than Carson Wentz, so that's cool. Um,
So your pick is
Josh,
Carson
no,
Wentz.
no, it is not. Josh Allen, Josh Allen and Matthew Stafford were the guys I was thinking of at the beginning of the year. They've kind of like slowed down. Honestly, this is like I think the worst, not even the worst pick. It's just like the annoying pick. Brady. I'm gonna go with Brady at the moment.
Yeah.
He has 30 touchdowns right now. His
I
team
don't
is
want to
still
say
very
Brady.
good. Like
I
I
can't
don't
say
want to
Brady.
pick Brady. I don't want to. But the thing is,
There's
right,
nothing exciting at all about saying Brady. It's just okay, we know.
right. If we do look at they're currently like the 3 seed, right? Because they beat the Cowboys. They
hmm
play a good stretch of like easy winnable games. Like they play the Colts, the Falcons, the Bills, the Saints, the Panthers back, like two Panther games, and the Jets.
Yeah.
Jets.
Realistically, they drop like one or two of those games, which puts them around like 13-4. That is a very great record, especially
Yeah.
for a team like that.
If Brady wins another MVP, there's gonna be calling Roger Goodell's. Like, I think a lot of fans are just kind of done with that dude.
Yeah.
Both Brady and Goodell.
Okay, I know. We never got to mention this, but I'll just say this: shout out Elijah Moore, 5 weeks in a row with a touchdown. Most of them were garbage time, but still, he's starting to pick it up second half of the season. I'm excited. That's just my own misbias.
Uh,
Um, so yeah, I think that
oh
probably
yeah, shout out
wraps
to
up.
Sam Cosmi, one of the highest rated rookie O linemen out of Texas. You already know. That's my UT flex.
Okay, you will have any Oklahoma player you want to say?
Jalen Hurts has been very impressive. I do think
Yeah,
Yeah, like
if the front office is supportive of Jalen Hurts, I think he has a bright future there, especially because Devonta Smith is
yeah,
a
okay.
beast. I don't know what
That's
Philly's doing, but yeah.
yeah. We're approaching an hour and a half on this podcast. I say we wrap it up, boys. The very first episode of the Triple Option Podcast. I'm your co-host Tarun Doglu, along with Aubrey Dingery and Nate Autry. Leave your if you could support us anyway, we would really appreciate that. And thank you all.
Leave a like, comment, subscribe, and follow us on Spotify and Apple Music. Thank you.